There are people all across this globe who now will have the opportunity to know you like I do, because of course you are very forthcoming in telling stories about life, stories that are relatable, and that means something. How wonderful it is, and I just look forward to seeing how this new platform will just rise and grow and really be a vessel through which you can be a blessing to folk all over this world. And Lord knows we need it. God bless.
And the point that I'm making is that in everybody's life, at some point, there's a plan B. God is talking to us every step of the way. God is trying to show you something every step of the way. When things seem to be going wrong, that's God's way of opening another door. I am convinced that God has been directing me every step of my life.
On the Word Network. Welcome to Nicholas Hood III Ministries, a ministry of hope, spiritual inspiration, personal power guided by Christian love. May the power of God's Holy Spirit fall upon you as you sit back and enjoy today's program. I introduce you now to Pastor Nicholas Hood III.
One of my favorite Bible verses is found in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, which says simply, "Thus a man shall leave his mother and his father and cleave unto his wife." Thus a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife. It doesn't say claw his wife, but cleave unto his wife. And the text comes in that second chapter of Genesis, where it tells us that God created man from the earth, but then causes the man to fall into a great sleep. And falling into a great sleep, God then removed a bone from the man, and out of that bone created woman. Now, to put it in a biblical context, in the first chapter of Genesis, it tells us that God created male and female alike, the two of them, in the image of God. So you put those two images together, that man and woman are created equal in God's sight, but that the man cleaves unto the wife. And I would take it a little bit further to say that not only is the man cleaving unto the wife or drawing himself unto the wife, but that the good wife cleaves unto the husband. And, it's an interesting thing. I've been married 47 years this year. And if you count the 3 years that my wife and I were dating, this is our 50th year of knowing each other. And little did I know that this day would come. And it's a good day. But one of the things that I've learned in 47 years of marriage is that we actually do begin to cleave unto one another. We cleave unto one another in that we realize we need one another. To cleave unto another person means that you value that person. If you are cleaving to somebody, that's a person you don't mind talking with. Matter of fact, better than don't mind talking to, you actually want to talk with them. You actually want to listen to them. You literally become one. But in the process of becoming one, it's not it's, as my father used to say, a smotherly love. Motherly love is not necessarily smotherly love, but it means that, somehow in the best of relationships, we figure out how we are drawn to one another, yet at the same time maintain some independence. And I know there are people looking at this right now. Some of you have been married longer than I have. This whole business, I want you to think for a minute about what the Reverend is saying, cleaving unto one another. But it is really important, I think, as human beings, to find something that gives you value, someone who gives you meaning, something that gives you a reason to want to live. And that's part of that cleaving unto one another. Today I'm talking about marriage. And a little later in the program, I'm going to talk with two younger people who are part of my production team, who are Christians. And we're going to talk about their marriages. And what does this text really mean to them? To cleave unto one another. But before we get to them, I want to share with you a story I heard just yesterday. One of the members of my church called me. She told me that she and her husband had been married over 60 years. She told me that when I met my husband at Michigan State University and we were young, she said he was the smartest person I'd ever met. She said in all of our life together as husband and wife has been wonderful, from our young years to now our golden years of life. She said, but now he has dementia. She said, now he can't function the way he once functioned. She said, but I just love him so much because he's been so good to me through the years. And she said, even with his dementia, he's still good and he's still nice. And she said, we're still having fun together. And she's saying, I don't know how much longer, I can do this. But I am just so thankful and grateful that I have him. And one of the points that I made to her was I said, try to hold on. Don't give up. But understand that you may get to the point where you can't take care of him. And when you get to that point where you think it's more than what you can bear, don't hesitate to reach out and try to find some help. Because sometimes in life, we can love a person so much and we want to care for them and do for them as best that we can. And we try to do that, and sometimes the caregiver dies before the one they're caring for. And so I am sending this word out to each of you who are looking at this program right now. And I want you to ask yourself, who do I cleave to in life? Is there somebody that I love so much that I would put them before even myself? Is there somebody who has been so good to me? Somebody who has lifted me up when I was down? Somebody who listened to me when nobody else would listen to me? Is there somebody that I have enjoyed talking to all these years, spending time with, having fun with, that I just feel drawn to that person? And if so, what am I doing with that relationship? The other thing I would say is that I know some people are listening to me right now, looking at this program and saying, but Reverend, that sounds all well and good, but I don't have anybody that I'm cleaving to. I've never found somebody that I cleave to. Or if I've cleaved to a person once, maybe they let me down and broke my heart. And now I'm just finished with cleaving to anybody. Matter of fact, I may be ready to claw somebody before cleaving to anybody. But I say to you, find somebody. And if you can't find somebody, find something that you want to cleave unto. Cleave unto your children. Cleave unto your community. Cleave yourself to the poor, the disenfranchised, those who are having difficulty finding their way in life. And once you find something to cleave to, someone to cleave unto, what you will find is that God will open the windows of heaven and pour out a rich and abundant blessing upon you. That's my little word for today. I want you to stick around because in just a minute, I'm going to talk with two young people from my production crew, two young Christians, and we're going to talk about what it means to cleave on to one another. Stick around, and I'll be right back.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and his power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.
You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons, but I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's Ministries. You'll never be the same.
I'd like to introduce you to two people who are part of my production crew for the broadcasts. We have Sadisha Randolph, who is the production assistant, and we also have John Hill, who's the producer of this program. And I'm going to talk with them in just a minute. I invited them to be on this program, on this segment, because today I was talking about a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife. And I started thinking about it. I said, Sadisha, you're married. John, you're married. Sadisha, you've been married going on 3 years.
Yes.
John, you're what, 13 years?
13 years, yeah.
And
Lucky 13.
yeah, and so you all are married, but also with this broadcast, we are in our 11th month. Next month, in January, it will be 1 year.
Wow.
And we've been on the air for 1 year in over 195 countries.
Wow.
I think that's a beautiful thing. But before we get to all that, I just want to say a word of thank you to all of you who are looking at this program who have given financial support. I want to thank Deborah McIntosh from Mobile, Alabama. You're the first person to contribute to this broadcast, and I thank you. I want to thank my childhood friend from high school, Kevin Toney, and his wife from Los Angeles, California, for making monthly contributions that go to support this ministry. And I want to thank Lorimer and Jacqueline Wyatt from Southfield, Michigan, who are supporting me every month. I want to thank Delgina Barber for supporting this ministry every month from Detroit, Michigan. I want to thank Dr. Adanika Nunu for major support of this broadcast. And there are many others that I'm not mentioning today, but I will mention you in the future. Hugh Perkins from the Detroit area, who's given me great advice and counsel. He's a retired broadcaster
Excellent.
himself.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people have been very, very supportive of this ministry. And I want you to know that you can be part of this. I want to thank my cousins down in San Antonio, Texas, Ernest and Julia Battle, and many others. But I want to come back now to this team. This is my production team, and part of the reason why I asked them to be on the program today is they're Christian. And when I asked the two of them to help me, I did not ask you if you're a Christian. But frankly, John, when I reconnected with you, you know, John and I knew each other from the city government in Detroit.
Absolutely.
John is the man who put the Detroit City Council on television every day.
Yeah.
He was the head of our media group. I used to be on the city council, but I didn't know church was part of you.
Absolutely.
But I ran into him in a church. Sedacia, you know, came as a production assistant, and I found out the very first day that she was with me that she went to church. I must have asked you, where did you go to church? But tell everybody about your church involvement. I was so impressed. A month ago, you missed our broadcast because you were an elected delegate for the Oak Grove AME Church to what? It was a Michigan or City of Detroit?
Yes, it was the Michigan Annual Conference.
The Michigan Annual Conference.
Yes.
And what did that mean to you, to be an elected delegate?
It was a big deal. It was my first time doing something like that, and it meant a lot that my church had enough faith in me to send me to do just to do something that really represented our church and our community. So going to the conference, I learned a lot about the AME faith, and I think it's something that's really important for all young adults especially to go and learn about the AME connectional altogether. But it was a big deal. I learned, again, a lot about the AME faith, just a lot of the doctrine. So it was a really good experience for me to overall just learn more about what I've been experiencing my entire life. I've been at my church forever, so.
And I understand you were involved actively in 4 ministries of your church.
Yes, I
And
am.
what are they again?
So I'm the president of the Young Adult Ministry. I'm the president of the book club, and I'm a part of the marriage ministry with my husband, and I'm on the scholarship committee.
That's beautiful. Before we get to you, John, you know, I shared with Sedacia that I used to attend her church
Right.
when I was a senior in high school. And it's kind of funny, I attended the Sunday school at her church, even though my father was a minister of another church.
Right.
But the reason why I attended Sunday school at her church was I was chasing a girl who's probably looking at this program right now from Las Vegas, Nevada, Rose Thornton. Rose, I'm talking about you. Yes, you. But Rose's grandmother was a choir director
Wow.
and may have been the minister of music at Oak Grove. And interestingly enough, the pastor who designed the building that your church worships in now, I think is Robert Mitchum.
Reverend Mitchum, yes.
Mitchum was from Terre Haute, Indiana, and he and my father were childhood friends.
Wow, it's a small world.
It's a very small world.
Wow.
Yes. So keep some thoughts about cleaving under your husband. I'm going to ask you about that in a minute.
Okay.
But John, tell me, you know, I talk to you, you tell me you going to church all the time. Where do you go to church?
Well, you know, that's an interesting question. Let's start out with my mother raised both me and my brother, you know, with the Bibles around us and in church. We started out at Catholic church, and so Father Cunningham was our pastor.
Friend of mine.
Yeah. Just a great guy, one of the best pastors that I've ever seen, and the love that he had for, you know, people. He actually, if believe it or not, made Catholic church fun. And so we got raised. My mother was originally from Russell Street Baptist, and so that's where most of her family went. But she was the one that went over to Madonna Parish at the time. And now I work with you. I work with Reverend Holly also, in doing his production. And so between you and Reverend, I hear church all the time. And then on top of that, you know, we were going to Northridge for a period of time. We haven't been going back there since the pandemic, but I'm just constantly watching church programming or helping people produce programming for God.
So what's it like for the two of you to be a part of this Christian ministry?
It's great, you know, through the lessons that I'm learning as we're producing different programming, it's like God is talking to me. and so, every time that we sit down and meet, last time you were talking to a gentleman and you were talking about David and, David standing up against adversities and how you have to run towards your challenge.
Got to run to the challenge.
You got to run to the challenge.
Run to your Goliath.
Run to your Goliath. all of these things speak to me. Again, Reverend Holly, when he's preaching, all of the messages, speak to me. So I don't have to look far. It seems like God's always talking to me. And even through just general conversations with people, I hear God talking. So I think when you're tuned in and you start to tune into that channel, that, you will hear God if you're looking for him.
Sadisha, what does it mean to you to be a part of a Christian broadcast?
It's huge because it's something that's not common. And I love being a part of a body of people that all have one common goal, which is spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that is something that's super important to me, is being around like-minded individuals that believe, that are focused, and that are steadfast. So it's nice because I don't have to hide my faith, which I would never do anyway, but I don't have to feel awkward about having those conversations. It's something where I just feel free.
I began this program with Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. Thus a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife. And Sadisha, you're young, in a young marriage. What does that verse mean to you?
Really, it means that two people are separating from their families and coming together to truly become one. And say, for instance, if someone doesn't necessarily have close relatives, that means you're leaving your, not leaving your friendships, but you're separating yourselves when it comes to your relationship from maybe your friendships if you don't have a close relationship with your mom and dad, or just, you're separating yourself and becoming one with your partner. You are making those decisions together. You guys are leaning on one another. You guys are sharing things with one another that maybe you don't share with those that you once did, just to keep your, relationship and things private, and keeping your trajectory for your relationship going in the same direction without outside voices.
John, what does that Bible verse mean to you, to cleave unto your wife?
Well, it means the same thing that Sadisha was saying, but it also means, as I cleave to Angela, I also cleave to God, because I really believe that you have to have God in it, in all three of you, in order to make it through, and make it a marriage work, I would say. A lot of times, and I just, be realistic, you don't see eye to eye. I would imagine that all husbands and wives sometimes see things a little bit differently, but it's that constant pursuit of trying to see eye to eye, and that constant pursuit of trying to become one, and the only way that I see to do that is through Jesus and God.
In James chapter 4, I believe it's verse 36, James says, draw nigh unto God, and God will draw nigh unto you. And, I'm hearing you talking about cleaving unto God. That's really what James is talking about when he says, draw nigh unto God, and God will draw nigh unto you. We are about out of time on this program, but I'm so glad to have an opportunity to introduce the two of you to our broadcast following around the world. Over 195 nations are looking at this right now. And I want the viewer, I want those of you who are looking at this program to know that this is a Christian operation, and that we're not just preaching the word, but we're trying to live the word. And so I want to thank the two of you for being on this program today, and I hope it won't be the last time.
I hope so.
Not either.
So, and Reverend, I just want to make sure that people got it right, that you were saying cleave to your spouse and not leave your spouse. I just want to make sure. Let's get that right.
I think we're about out of time, but Ryan, how much more time do we have, man? I can't see you. So, folk, we're at the end for today, but next week I'm going to talk about love and with another young couple who are very active in my church, and we're going to talk about sacrificial love. So call a friend, tell them Nick Hood was on the line, and he told you that next week he's going to be talking about sacrificial love. God bless, God keep you, and remember, I am praying for you. And the point that I'm making is that in everybody's life, at some point, there's a plan B. God is talking to us every step of the way. God is trying to show you something every step of the way. When things seem to be going wrong, that's God's way of opening another door. I am convinced that God has been directing me every step of my life.
On the Word Network.
There are people all across this globe who now will have the opportunity to know you like I do, because of course you are very forthcoming in telling stories about life, stories that are relatable, and that means something. How wonderful it is, and I just look forward to seeing how this platform, this new platform, will just rise and grow and really be a vessel through which you can be a blessing to folk all over this world, and Lord knows we need it. God bless.
Thank you for watching today's program. We hope you've been blessed in a powerful way. Just knowing you took the time to watch today's broadcast is a great encouragement to Pastor Nick Hood. If this broadcast has been a blessing to you, we ask that you mail a tax-free donation to Nicholas Hood Ministries at 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.
You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons. But I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's Ministries. You'll never be the same.